Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast.
Wherever you find American troops today, you find the men of the Transportation Corps. Enough and on time. That's the story we tell you today. The story of the Army Quartermaster Corps.
These youthful servicemen are members of the Army's Military Police Corps.
One of the most important forces behind the lines, the Army Ordnance Corps.
Welcome back to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast. As usual, I am Staff Sergeant Adam Ross, Public Affairs NCOIC for 19th ESC, and we have a great episode today. We are joined by Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Carle and Colonel Chris Brookie, the Deputy Commanding Officer for 19th ESC. They both have interesting stories to tell as they both have a lot of history with Korea and with 19th ESC. So, sir, we'll start with you. So we kind of just play kind of a get-to-know-you game when we first start. So what can you tell us about what made you decide to join the Army?
Actually, as I was coming out of high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I thought the Army would be a good choice to get into something, go explore the world, and then decide what my future might be.
Okay. And so what was your first MOS? What?
I was actually, back then it was called a 67 uniform. I was a Chinook mechanic and crew chief.
Okay, cool. And we'll get into a little more about the how you arrived at your current duty position later on. Right. And so, Chief, same question to you. How did you find yourself in the Army?
So for me, a little bit different. I got a phone call in the spring of '99, promised a job. I got excited, so I accepted, and I joined the Army as right when I was a junior in high school. So I did all my training in the summer between junior and senior year high school. My whole senior year, I was a reservist getting paid by the Army. I decided I was going to go to college, so I went active duty after that.
So were you 17 at basic training?
I was I turned 17 right before I shipped to basic training.
Okay.
18. So I was 17 right before I shipped.
Okay, just bright-eyed private for real.
Yes.
Okay. And with that sound, we're going to shift gears a little bit and go into our 50-meter target questions and answers. So it's going to come a little bit faster, a little bit different questions. So we're going to start with you, Chief. Last book you read or are reading?
Currently, I just finished reading Harry Potter.
Oh, which one?
The first one.
Really? Okay, so are you in for the long haul or read all of them?
I think I'm going to read all of them.
Okay, but so my wife and my son have read all of them, and they never let me forget that I haven't read any of them. So one of these days I'm going to have to do the same. Okay. So, sir, over to you. Same question.
A little bit different answer. I haven't read any books lately, but I am in a Korean language class. I've been reading Korean language books, which are extremely exciting in Korean language.
Interesting. So you're working on your Hangul then?
Hangul Moleo.
Okay. How's that going for you? How fluent would you call yourself?
Not very yet.
Okay. Well, good luck with that, sir. So
try it.
Next question. Ice cream cake or cake and ice cream?
How about apple pie and ice cream?
I'll take it. Okay. Chief?
Apple pie and ice cream sounds great.
Okay. Okay. We're zagging a little bit already. Okay. So we've obviously, being in the Army, we've done a lot of long plane rides, especially to Korea. So, Chief, what tips do you have for a long plane ride, like coming to Korea?
A big, thick book, a nice, comfortable pillow, and some pills to sleep.
Okay. Sir, how about you?
I agree with Chief. Generally, it's got to have the neck pillow. I mean, that's golden. And then maybe a glass of wine when you first sit down on the plane. And then sleep as much as you can.
Definitely.
Of course, now with the mask, that may be a little bit more complicated.
True. You might have a little more elbow room, though, with the less crowded flights. Okay, sir, staying with you. Korea has a little bit of traffic, run into traffic on the peninsula. Where in your Army career, in your world travels, what's the worst traffic you've ever encountered?
Washington, D.C.
That's probably the most common answer we get, actually. Yeah.
I ride a Harley-Davidson motorcycle.
Oh, that's right.
Riding it through the traffic here gets to be fun, but I will take it any day over D.C.
Chief, how about you?
I think the worst traffic was in Rome.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. Were you on a motorcycle there?
I was in a taxi holding on to dear life.
All right. That sounds good. So with that, we are going to take a little break, and we're going to come back and talk about both these soldiers, what brought them to Korea initially, and their impressions over the years of it. Stay with us right here on the Every Soldier Counts podcast.
This is Sean Johnson, the Area 4 Outdoor Rec Manager. Do you like adventure? Do you love high adrenaline activities? Do you enjoy exploring Korea? The Warrior Adventure Quest program is a Department of the Army program designed to introduce soldiers to activities such as zipline, bungee jump, paintball, ATV, and more that serves as alternatives to potentially dangerous behaviors. The program is free to soldiers. Outdoor recreation includes transportation to and from the site and the cost of the activity. For more information and participation rules, please call your local outdoor recreation center located here in Area 4 at 763-2270 or 763-4562, or by stopping by the Camp Walker Community Center. Hope to see you here.
We're back on the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast, talking with Chief Warrant Officer 3 Carle and Colonel Brookie, the DCO for 19th ESC. So, Chief, we were talking a little bit about, before we got on the podcast here, 19th ESC was your first duty station. So what do you remember about arriving in Korea, arriving in 19th ESC? What year was that?
So that was in February of 2001. It was nice and cold. And I remember going to PT formation, and there was a 2-star general saying, "If you don't outrank me, you will be here. Let's PT."
I kind of like that. Okay. And so, when you found out you were going to Korea, though, what did you think? Were you 19 or 20 at that point?
At that time, I was 19, and actually, I was pretty excited because I wanted to be as far away from home as possible. When I learned where Korea was, I was like, okay, that's far enough. That's good.
And I forgot to. And where is home, Chief?
It's a small town called Tecate, California. It's in East County, San Diego.
Okay. And so, and you are I forgot to mention earlier, you are the fusion chief for 19th ESC in the intelligence, our G2 intelligence section. And previously you were an intel soldier.
Yes,
right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So, what brought you to the intel world? What about that appealed to you?
So actually, when I switched over from the reserves to active duty, I was basically, the recruiter gave me a book and said, "Hey, choose whatever you want." I went through the list of MOSs, and I saw intel seemed pretty interesting to me. I actually wanted to be a counter intel. However, the school away was too long, 6 months. So I chose to be an intel analyst instead.
And you still went to Fort Huachuca? Okay. All right, sir. So you said you started out as a Chinook pilot. So I know you were in Korea pretty early on. Was that your first duty station as well?
It was. I was a crew chief mechanic at Camp Humphreys, Korea. Arrived here in, I guess it was July 1986. Had just turned 18 years old, bright-eyed and full of energy. And, oh, my God, I had 2 military policemen, would you believe that, as my sponsors as I arrived. They were such good influence for me. And
so you were actually younger than Chief was when you went to basic training then?
About the same. I joined my senior year of high school, 17 years old. Had my 18th birthday in basic training. I still remember that. I did so many push-ups for birthday cards. I hated my family so much.
And so I was just at Camp Humphreys last week. It's to say that it's changed is an understatement. What do you remember about Camp Humphreys back then?
Everything revolved around Seoul. Humphreys was a little small outpost with an airfield in the middle, but lots of helicopters and airplanes. But that was it wasn't the metropolis it is today.
And I would think like Pyeongtaek and kind of the outside area was radically different too, I would think.
It was a village, really, with farms and rice paddies. Still a little bit like that today, but it's changed a lot. Korea overall has changed a lot. If you look at where it's been in the last 50 years, the industrial revolution it's had, it's amazing. It's a beautiful country. The cities, compared to what they were 50 years ago, are amazing.
Yeah, Seoul is nicknamed the Miracle on the Han. And so in the 80s, it was still kind of building up to that kind of economic explosion.
It was really up until the Olympics in 1988. Korea was still struggling a little bit economically and how to manufacture and get this industry base put underneath. And once that kicked in high gear, and you look at what they have now today, Samsung, Hyundai, SK, these are world names. It's fantastic.
So were you still in Korea when they had the Olympics?
I was leaving right before it happened. I was trying to stay, but I'd already been here 2 years. I went from E1 to E4. They said that was enough. You really need to leave.
And so not too long after that, you made the decision to pursue a commission.
Actually, yes, but it was kind of an accident, if you want to know the story.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So made sergeant, went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, was an NCO and thought I was fantastic and doing a great job. And one day I went to get a haircut. I was getting a haircut off-post barbershop, the Korean barbershop. An older gentleman came in and sat down. And I was in uniform during lunchtime. And I was talking to the barber there, laughing and joking. And finally goes, "So, young sergeant, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a crew chief mechanic here at Fort Sill, on Chinook helicopters." "How long have you been doing that?" And he asked more questions. "What do you like the Army?" "Well, yes, sir, I do. It's been a good career so far." "What do you want to do next?" "Well, I think I'd like to be an officer." "Why?" "I want to help soldiers, want to lead soldiers." I gave him some good answers, I guess. A little bit. He goes, "Would you like some help?" "Okay." "Who are you?" "I'm Major General Brown. I'm the former base commander here at Fort Sill."
Wow.
"So I would like for you to go back to your unit today and tell your first sergeant commander, I'm going to come visit them tomorrow." That was a great conversation with my first sergeant.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything changed.
Interesting. And so I saw in your bio, sir, you did Green to Gold.
I did.
So that's one of those programs you hear about. Not many people maybe know someone that has done it. What were your impressions of it?
I thought it was fantastic. What General Brown did for me back then was he wrote a letter of recommendation, helped me get me connected with the local RTC department to fill out a Green to Gold packet. Back then it wasn't as well known even as it is today, and helped me navigate that process. He really took care of me, and I appreciate it. Stayed in touch with him for several years. But it was a process where you get to change over. You get to take all that you've learned as a enlisted soldier and now go lead soldiers at the officer level. That was fantastic.
And so to our listeners, if you're not familiar with Green to Gold, that's where the Army basically, you get a college education while doing all the Army stuff on the side.
It basically is. Oh, well, what they do is they chapter you out of the Army, and you get to go attend a professional college of your choice, as long as you're accepted and have an RTC program. And you go through a 2 or 3 or 4 year degree program, and then you are commissioned at the end back into the Army. Now, while you're in college, you do get full tuition paid for. You get a stipend for your books and other supplies. Then most universities will throw in a room and board scholarship to match it. So I went to college for free. It cost me a dime, and I even got to draw my GI Bill at the same time.
So for soldiers listening who are interested in that, sir, would you recommend they try to did the letter of recommendation help you that you got from General Brown? Would you advise someone to seek something like that?
It does. But the Commanding General 19th ESC has 2 of these to give away every year. We struggle with people to apply for them. So if anybody's interested, certainly reach out, contact me or anyone at the G1. We'll certainly put you on the track for it. It's a great program. If you got a soldier that shows that potential, then it's fantastic. Let's do it.
So, yeah, any 19th soldiers listen to that. Yeah, that's a fantastic opportunity. So, Chief, you also, how long? Tell us a little about your decision to switch over to the Warrant Officer Corps.
So I was Sergeant First Class, and I was stationed in Camp Casey back in 2013. And then I came to the realization that as much as I love being an NCO leading soldiers, I also love doing intel. And I was trying to think, what is the best way for me to continue to do both? And the solution that I came up with is becoming a warrant officer. I still work with all the soldiers at the lowest level, and I get to lead them, and I get to teach them about intel, and help their organization get better by doing so.
So, Sergeant First Class going to Warrant Officer Candidate School. That's what in Fort Rucker, Alabama. So, what was that kind of a rude awakening for you? Did you think you kind of knew everything the Army had? At that point, you were a pretty experienced soldier. What was that like for you?
So it was a little bit interesting because you think you reach a Sergeant First Class level, you're pretty squared away. You know everything. And then you have to take off that rank and pretend like you don't know nothing and do that for 5 weeks. but it's definitely a good experience. It's kind of frame it as basic training on steroids with education on top of it.
And so looking back at that now, as you've been promoted fairly recently to CW3. So what do you think about that decision you made then?
Absolutely the best decision I ever made in my life. Definitely.
And what Colonel Brookie was talking about, his process for green to gold, what about going to warrant officer candidate school? What does that entail?
So it's an application process. You do require letters of recommendation from your company commander, battalion commander, a senior warrant officer in the field that you're trying to go into, whether it be a technical field or flight. And then submit your packet and get boarded.
And talking about, we talked a little bit about Korea, shifting back to that topic. So, Chief, you've spent a long time in Korea, and with 19th ESC specifically, can we talk about that?
Yes. So like I said earlier, I came to Korea in February of 2001 to 19th ESC G2. And I was with G2 until the summer of 2007. And then I PCS to Camp Carroll to take over the S2 shop at the 5th Sustainment Brigade, which is now the 2nd ID Sustainment Brigade. I was there for 2 years. And then finally I left Korea.
So that Sustainment Brigade used to be at Carroll.
Yes.
They're at Humphreys
They're
right
at Humphreys
now.
right
Okay,
now.
did not know that. Okay, and so and now you're back in Korea, obviously. So what's brought you back to Korea? What made you want to come back?
So shortly before I left Korea the first time, I got married to my wife Hannah, who is from Daegu, and then having family here is one of the things that has brought me back to Korea. So all my in-laws are here, so my children get to enjoy grandma and grandpa as much as possible.
Excellent. And so, sir, you left Korea 1988. When was the next time you came back to the peninsula?
Came back again after I got commissioned. Went to officer basic course. Would you believe it? My first assignment as an officer was back to Korea, back to 19th ESC, where I was the XO for the 4th Quartermaster detachment down in Busan. We used to have Camp Hialeah, the parachute rigger detachment. Probably one of the best assignments I ever had. The only airborne second lieutenant in Korea. I had a blast.
Wow. And so that's how you got your rigger badge.
Yes.
That you're wearing. So what goes into that kind of assignment then, that's a unique unit like that?
It was. We go through about a 6-week course at Fort Lee, Virginia, to earn the rigger badge after you've completed airborne school, of course. And then for the parachute unit down in Busan, when it was here, it was really about looking at air delivery materials, my need for contingency here, keeping those serviceable and ready, but also doing joint peer station with the ROK Army, the ROK Special Forces, U.S. Special Forces, U.S. Marine Corps, to do airborne operations with them. It was a fantastic job.
And so Busan, sir, we don't have the presence there maybe as we did before, but we still do. 19th ESC still does have soldiers down there. What can you tell us about the kind of work they do, their mission, working with them?
Yeah, well, today it's mostly a combination of two forces. There are some soldiers from SDC, from the 837th Transportation Battalion down there operating the port. And also we have the Busan Support Center, which is really a logistics node for supplies and things inbound to Korea.
And it's Pier 8 where we have that really unique facility right down there where it can do tons of stuff.
It is. It's really the major U.S. port here in Korea for reception of supplies and equipment. It's embedded into the ROK government maritime operations there to allow us to have co-use of that.
And mentioning the ROK, sir, I've been to a few events with you where we have these alliance events a lot of times with the ROK Army. What has been your experience working with the ROK Army, kind of this unique aspect of our mission down here?
I think it's a fantastic time to really share the alliance and build on it, because you build on it more from a professional, but also a personal dialogue. We make these friendships that may last a lifetime.
And we talk a lot about on these podcasts just the uniqueness of not only being in Korea but 19th ESC, working with ROK Army, working with Katusas. Chief, what's been your experience working with Katusas throughout your career in Korea?
So it's been really great in terms of being able to leverage the expertise of having a Korean national work with you to help you solve problems that you wouldn't be able to address. Like, for example, road issues. When we had a KRF, we had to have a better understanding of the traffic, peak hours, traffic issues that you wouldn't find out in the U.S. app. You have to use Korean sources, Korean sites, and the Katusas were excellent at providing that fidelity to ensure that KRF units were able to get to their final objective with no issues.
And what about as a younger soldier working with Katusas on either side of you, kind of back in those days?
So interesting story. One of Katusa I worked with when I first got here in 2001, I actually not only did I work with him, but we also had shared friendship off duty, and actually introduced him to his wife.
Oh, really?
So.
Okay, so sir, you mentioned the Harley. I know you drive. I've seen you driving the Harley around, and I know also you're retiring in the future. Is there a lot more Harley riding in your future? What are some goals you have post military?
Working through that. Looking forward to retirement. I mean, as I just went over my started my 34th year in the Army. It's probably about time the body's going to give up one of these days on doing all the hard stuff. But it's okay. Look forward to it. My plan is to transition. I'll probably take a couple months vacation, and then I'm looking forward to coming back to Korea.
You're coming back?
I'd like to as a civilian contract or GS, look for employment, settle down, maybe make some roots here for a few years, and see what happens.
So what went into Daegu area has obviously made a big impression on you, sir. So how would you sell someone on Daegu area for?
The easiest way to sell someone on Daegu is take a drive around the city. Let them see the mountains, the river, the lake. I live off post. I have really enjoyed the community. I think the Korean people are some of the most caring, supportive people you ever met in your meeting or in the world. They really do care about their city and the people in their country. And they're probably one of the most family-oriented people and cultures you'll meet. I like that, and I'd like to be a part of that culture.
Excellent. Yeah, that's my family is with me in Korea here. Their first time. I had been here before, but that's how kind of I sold them on it. I told them, like, wait till you meet Koreans. I mean, you'll know, when you meet them. So, sir, you mentioned you're in your third decade of Army service. So, looking back, you talked about what Korea was like in the 80s. What are some ways the Army has changed in Korea over the years, or just the Army period that you've noticed?
I would say we've become more strict on our reporting and the discipline of our soldiers. Back in the 80s here, if you made a mistake, if something happened in the Ville, your platoon sergeant, platoon leader, they'll come in, counsel you, get you some corrective training, make sure you're straight. Today, a lot of that goes up to much higher levels. It's probably necessary. We've become more visible with social media, with the things that are out there. Everything we do is in spotlight. So we got to be more careful and more responsible for what we do. Back then, it wasn't as such as a highlight as it is today, where a simple incident downtown become an international incident. So that's changed a lot, and our Army's become more sensitive to that, which is a good thing. And we owe it to the country of Korea to be better ambassadors to the United States, and we owe it to our own country to be that.
Chief, how about you? What do you remember being different back then?
So I agree a lot with that. Just based off of my experiences, when I saw soldiers get in trouble, it was always that first line, like, come here, we'll take care of this. And no one else knew about it. However, the perceptions of the community seeing whatever happened, what was the issue, and the way it's being handled now is definitely much better in that regards, and basically to emphasize the importance of our role as ambassadors, not only for the unit, but for our country. So I think that's a good change. Other changes is mostly in our leveraging of technology. For example, like I said, in G2 shop, we do security clearances, stuff like that. I remember running security clearances on a little floppy disk. Mm-hmm. Now everything's online, web-based, very interactive. So a lot of the technological changes and the way we leverage that technology.
Interesting. And so as we close out here, kind of our final topic, we sir, on the first podcast, we had talked with General Allen about this, about how when we're still in the middle of the pandemic, we still have our core tenets, our COVID protocols, but people might forget that the pandemic kind of started, right? This is ground zero for the pandemic, and 19th ESC was a big part of the response to that. Sir, what do you remember about those early days, just over a year, or about a year, a couple months from now, before now?
I remember long days, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. We trained how to defend ourselves from bullets and an enemy. But when you try to fight against a virus, something you can't see, don't know anything about. I mean, the whole world was banishing Daegu. Daegu made world news, and there were restrictions put on people from Daegu going anywhere. You go to Camp Humphreys. Oh, you're from Daegu? You got to leave. You can't stay here. I mean, there was a lot we didn't know, and uncertainty created a lot of fear and a kind of I would say a dark time for the city of Daegu and the people, soldiers that live and work here. But now we're getting past that. I don't know if y'all saw it, but this week they're talking about almost 40,000 vaccines being flown in to support USFK. By the end of May, we have the potential to vaccinate everybody in USFK that wants a vaccine. Maybe normalcy to some level can come back, and that's what I look forward to. We all went through a dark time, scary time. We didn't know anything about, weren't trained for it, and really had no knowledge about. I probably know more about vaccines and viruses now than I ever knew in my life. But, it's something we went through. We survived it. It'll make us stronger. But it's not something I don't want to do again.
Definitely. And then, Chief, you and I know about PCSing here during the pandemic. What were your impressions of the protocols put in place for the?
So I think at first it was a rocky start, but like I said, leveraging technology was really good. So I helped sponsor soldiers through MS Teams, make sure they have all the right information on time, so that when they're in that quarantine transition period, they're able to actually take care of all their requirements so that they can show up after quarantine, start working, get ready to engage in the fight. But it's definitely, the start was a little bit shocky, definitely improved over time as we started to understand the processes and the requirements, and then leveraging technology to help those soldiers transition from the States to Korea.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're starting to talk about more and more, is how you're in the quarantine, but you can, use the quarantine to work for you, knock out the early training, get to know your leadership a little bit while you're in quarantine. Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for joining us here on the Every Soldier Counts podcast. Anything else you want to hit up? Any topics?
Just thanks for doing this, and appreciate what PEO does for us all every day, and keeps a voice in the air.
Well, thanks, sir. And Chief, anything?
No, thank you, Sergeant Ross.
All right. Well, I want to say thanks again for listening to the Every Soldier Counts podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcast app you use so you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Command. We'll talk to you next time on the Every Soldier Counts podcast.